Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar on how to use FSTA on EBSCO. Our presenter today is Carol Hollier, Senior Information Literacy and Outreach Manager at IFIS Publishing. Carol joined the IFIS team in September last year and has over 10 years' experience as an instruction librarian at universities in the UK and the US. After Carol's tutorial, we will have a question and answer opportunity. So if you have any questions for us, please send them in using the chat facility at any time during the webinar, and these will be addressed at the end. We will be recording today's webinar and will be sending the recording out to everyone who attends afterwards. If you'd like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's session, this can also be provided. My name is Hannah Casbolt and I will be available on live chat throughout. Now over to you, Carol.
Okay, thank you, Hannah, and thank you everybody for coming today. What I'm going to do is start with a very quick overview of FSTA, and then I'm going to dive right into the platform. So we'll cover how to do a basic search, and we'll look at the thesaurus and look at how it can make your search stronger, how it does make your search stronger on FSTA. And then at the end, we'll turn to the advanced search function. So don't hesitate to ask questions if you have them as I go along, and I will dive in. So the first thing I want to do is just say that the content that you will find in FSTA is fairly standard database content, in that you'll mostly find academic scholarly journal articles, as well as some trade publications, and you'll find patents, you'll find some conference proceedings and standards, and then some books and theses and reports. So that's very standard. If we look at it from a different angle, you'll know that we are focused on food content. So we have all sorts of different kinds of food commodities, and we're interested in the food in terms of all sorts of multidisciplinary angles. So basically food and health, no matter how it's being researched. So from toxicology questions to water science questions to engineering questions to nutrition questions, etc. So the content that we have in the database comes from core journals, which are indexed cover to cover, and then also our editorial team goes out into non-core journals, so say engineering journals or psychology journals, and find the food and health related content and bring it into the database, so that it's a nice sort of almost one-stop shop for people doing research in this area. So what I want to do now is actually jump to EBSCOhost, and I'm signed into it already, you'll see here. Now, what your page that you land on when you sign into EBSCOhost for FSTA will vary depending on how your university library has it set up. So in this case, I'm already in FSTA. So, but you often have the chance to choose amongst a number of different databases. And so if you've gone into sort of a general one, it's worth going to FSTA to search. And you might have 3 search boxes. You might land on the advanced search page. It all just depends on how the administrator who's in charge of the platform at your institution has chosen to set it up. But chances are you will have the basic search page, and it will look like this, even if you have to jump to it from somewhere else. And so I want to show you right away what happens when you open up the search options underneath here, because this has some really useful information for knowing what's happening when you're using basic search. So you'll see that you have various search modes here, and there's a Boolean phrase search. There's find all my search terms. So I think find all my search terms, it does what it says it's going to do. Find any of my search terms also does what it says it's going to do. So that's as though you're doing an OR search there. And then there's something called smart text searching. So most places have Boolean phrase search set up as the default. And so I think it's worth explaining what that means, because what it does mean is that the database is going to interpret your search as a Boolean search unless you don't put in any Boolean operators. So Boolean operators are the connectors between search terms that you use. So the ones that we use most often are and or, although we also can use not. And so if you don't use Boolean operators in what you type, then it will interpret it as a phrase. But it interprets it as a phrase, sort of. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that, because I'm going to use a not food science related search just because it illustrates the point really nicely. So I'm going to do a search up here for an actual phrase. So I'm going to stipulate that my two words that I type need to be next to each other by putting them inside quotation marks. So green tree, and do a search. And when I do that search, I get one result. And I that in the abstract, the words green tree came together as a phrase that replicate what I typed in the search box. Now, if I take off the quotation marks and search this as a phrase, then actually I find that I'm getting a lot more results than one. So now with green tree, which the database told me was going to be a phrase search, I'm actually getting 37 results. And I can see that the words are not right next to each other. So if I open up this first result, I can see there's green and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, tree. So there's 4 words in between green and tree, but it still is returned this. And so I have the same thing down here. And so what has happened is that it's actually not quite a phrase. It is searching it as what's called an adjacent or proximity search, so that my word green has to be within 5 words of tree. And again, your administrator will set up that. They could say it actually has to be a phrase right next to each other. They could say that they had to be within 3 words of each other, but the default, the most common setting that people have is that it's 5 words within 5 words of each other. So I might think searching this search that, oh, well, green tree was actually working as though it was green and tree, but I'm going to type in the and in between the 2 words. And I see actually it wasn't doing that at all. So I got far more results, 353 results, when I type it actually as a Boolean phrase where I'm saying I need to have green somewhere in the record and to have tree somewhere in the record, and they don't need to be close to each other. They don't need to be in the same field in the record. So this is really important to know what the database is doing in order that you're actually using it to get the results out. So we could just stick with just, type in some words and have the green tree with no quotation marks and say, we got some results, they might be good results, and be happy enough with that. But if you want to be more thorough and systematic in your searching, you're going to want to actually be using the Boolean operators. So if I show another search that is not food related, I'm going to say now, instead of green tree, green car. Then we'll see that down here, I got some information that it's showing, it's changed my search. So it's showing results for green card rather than green car. And so that's something to keep an eye on. Has it actually searched quite for what you wanted it to search for or not? You can say, well, I do want to search for green car. And when I do that, it turns out that the database, not surprisingly, doesn't have any results at all that are about green cars. And so it has taken the words that I've typed and tried to rejig them into some kind of way that will get some results from the database. So that's what smart search or smart text searching is doing for me. So if I do another search, so I'm going to search for yogurt, and I've spelled that the American way, then I can see that I get a lot of results. If I search for yogurt, the British way, adding an H in there, then I get more results. So I had 10,000 with no H, and now I have 13,000 with an H. If I actually search for, and you can see it says, did you mean yogurt? And I did not, because I've already searched that, but you'll often get these prompts. But if I search both of these with a Boolean, yogurt or yogurt, then I actually get even more results. So another 1,000 results get added onto there. So these are just some things that I think are quite useful to know about when you're doing a search. So if you wanted to do a search in the basic search that was more complicated than just one concept, or a concept that was represented with just 2 words, then you'd have to pull in using parentheses around your or parts of the search. So for instance, if I do a search that's about gushing, which is the beer foaming out of a bottle, which can be caused by Fusarium, which is a fungi on grain. So I want to do a search that's got 3 parts for it. So the gushing part of it, the Fusarium part of it, and then the product or the commodity, which is beer. So if I did this and I made it a little bit more complicated, so I thought of synonyms. So gush or gushing, I'm going to truncate that, or flow, which is also a related term for that phenomenon, and then put in and then Fusarium. And I'll just stick with that word to capture that concept. But then for beer, I might do beer or beers or ale or brewing. So brew or brewing or brews. So if I type this out without any parentheses and hit search, then I get 62,000 results. And now it will organize them by relevance. So it'll pull the ones that it thinks are most relevant to the top of your list. But if you add in parentheses to group all the or concepts, so where you've used different words to capture a particular concept, and hit search, then you'll see we only have 63 results. And that makes it much easier to, for instance, sort it by the newest results. So I can see where is the newest research coming on this. So I'm not at the mercy of the database trying to figure it out by relevance. So it gives me, again, more control over what I'm doing. Now you'll see down here that I've got various limits that I can apply. So I could just look at the results that are scholarly or peer-reviewed journals. And I want to say that some libraries will have it set up so that this is ticked already. It's the default setting. And so if that's the case, then you won't see things like patents. You won't see any of the trade publications, and you won't see any standards. So it just, it's something to be aware of. Is that ticked or is that not ticked? It might be what you want to have, or it might not. You can look at the publication date. So you can just look at things that are more recent. You can also use limits for languages, or here which publication it's in, etc. So you have all of those options. So I want to go really quickly to the thesaurus, and I want to show you here that we have these terms that are called subjects. They're called subjects when we're looking at it on this search page, but if we open up the record, then they're actually called the keywords. So they are the same things. And these are words that have been assigned to each record by the editorial team that capture what is most important about this article, really trying to capture the essence of the article. And it does something more for us too, which is really useful that I want to show you. So I only have FSTA. So here on my view, I have a link for thesaurus. If you have more than one database, your link at this point will say subjects, and then it will be a pull-down menu, and it'll give you an option to choose the FSTA thesaurus. So it's in the same spot, it just looks a little bit different. And when you go into the thesaurus, you start seeing an alphabetical list of terms, but it's something that you can search. So I'm going to turn instead to from the alphabetical list to term contains, and I'm going to look for soy yogurt. And I can see it here. So I'm going to click it open. And this is what I want to show you about the thesaurus in this webinar. So, which is the used for terms. So we have this long list: soybean yogurt, soybean yogurt, soybean yogurt spelled this way, soya yogurt, soybean yogurt as two separate words. And in each case, yogurt is spelled the two different ways. And all of these variations of spelling for the same term have all been gathered together under soy yogurt. So this means that the database will help power your search by pulling together a lot of various ways that researchers use, spellings that researchers use, and variations in terms that researchers use to capture the same concept, and pull them all together under a single thesaurus term that then is searchable when you do your search in this search team. So I will do another webinar later in the future that really can show you how you can integrate these terms into your search and build a search on the thesaurus terms. But for the moment, I just want you to be aware that this is all going on in the background, whether or not you use it explicitly to help you get better results. So what I'm going to do now actually is jump to advanced search here. An advanced search is usually set up with 3 search fields, and it's got something different that you didn't see in basic search, not just the extra search fields, but also the option to select a field here. So if you don't choose anything, then it's searching all your fields. And so there's 2 different things I want to show you about using it. So the first thing is that it lets you, with these multiple search boxes, be a little bit lazier about the parentheses. So if we do another search here, so let's say we do one that's quite topical about vitamin D. So I'm going to do that as a phrase. And then for my next concept, I'm going to look at coronavirus. So coronavirus has a bunch of different names that it can go by or be referred to by. So it could be COVID-19, it could be or coronavirus, or pandemic. And there's more that we could use, but I'm just going to use these 3 terms. And I've put them all in a single search box for a new concept. And then I'm going to add another term, immune, and I'm going to truncate it so that I'm getting immune system, immune response, immunity, and I'll hit search. And that gives me 15 results. And when you look here on the side, you'll see that the database has inserted the parentheses for me so that it's not searching the way we saw gushing and flowing and fusarium and beer the first time, where we got tons and tons of results. It's already doing that control for me. And I have the same options for limiting here. I could also, if I go and hit advanced search again, I can put those in from the start if I want to. So those are quite standard limits that you can use. So I'm going to clear that search and show you that advanced search also gives you the option to search with the particular fields here. So we could, if we wanted to, go and look for a patent assignee, and I will look for Unilever, the company, and then I can say I want to look at the patents that have been assigned to Unilever about frozen foods. So I'll do this as a truncation, frozen food or frozen foods, and hit search. And so I see that it's giving me 334 results of patents that have been assigned to Unilever that have to do with frozen food. And I could add in another term and say, actually, I also want to have it to do with packaging. So I'll do package, truncate. I think that truncating can be incredibly useful for searching, because this would give me package or packaging or packaged. And then I can see that I have 28 results that have been assigned to Unilever. So I can see patent assignees here that have to do with frozen foods and packaging. So that's a really quick introduction to using some of the aspects that are available for you, the search strategies that you can apply using basic search and advanced search on FSTA. I'm going to quickly turn to show you a few other resources that we have to support you in your searching. So if I go to the IFES website, so IFES is the organization that produces FSTA, and you'll see that here on our website, we have a tab for FSTA, and down here we have a user training page. And if we go scroll down a bit, then you can get to the EBSCO platform, and you'll see that we have both PDFs, quick reference guides for you about using the thesaurus or using advanced searching, and we have a YouTube channel that has short videos to support you in doing searches, or your students. Here on the website, we also have resources that are for not necessarily specific to FSTA. So we have a research skills blog. We have a LibGuide that is about effective literature searching in the sciences of food and health, which libraries are free to adopt or link to if they'd like to. And for more advanced researchers, we also have something called the Journal Recommendation Service, which is available to subscribers to FSTA. And it is a tool that helps people who are publishing actually find an appropriate journal, a good match for what the article is that they are trying to get published from legitimate sources, so they know that they're not actually accidentally going to try to publish in a predatory journal, which nobody wants to do. So I did want to show you those. I'll go back quickly to my slideshow and just tell you that we do have various social media channels where we try to share information about activities and products and new things that we're doing. So we would encourage you to follow us on any of these that you might use. And finally, I would just like to say thank you. Thanks so much for coming today. And do please contact me or my colleague, who's also named Carol. She's the person to contact if you'd like more information about access to FSTA, and I'm the person to contact if you'd like to know more about training on FSTA or about literature search best practice. So thank you very much. I do appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very much, Carol. All of the great resources that Carol mentioned are available on our website for you to access at any time, and you'll also find details on future webinars. Thank you to everyone for joining us today, and I hope you've enjoyed this look into how to use FSTA on EBSCO and gained a better understanding of the FSTA search process. We hope that FSTA continues to be a valuable tool in your food science research. Thank you and goodbye.